Hey, what's up everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. In the past few videos, you've heard me express frustrations about this game and some of the lackluster updates that have come from it, but I think it would be unfair of me to provide all this frustration and criticism without also talking about the positives. In this video, there's going to be two parts of breaking things down, kind of reflecting on what has really happened in the past year, as well as some of the unsung heroes that deserve a ton of credit for making it all come together. Now, over the past couple of videos, I've expressed my frustrations in regards to the lack of content and how there feels like there's a stagnation in the game. But one thing that hasn't really felt stagnant is the esport. This year, the esport for the RLCS has taken a transition from a couple matches a week, a couple seasons a year type of format, and gone completely to a circuit style where there is 20 plus events throughout the year. There's supposed to be a lot of live events, but we can't due to the pandemic, as well as all the other moving parts, a new production team, and a bunch of other things that are going on that has provided us with a really unique approach to what Rocket League Esports has become. There's a lot of changes and a lot of moving parts that go along with that. And unfortunately, despite all the criticism, they haven't really gotten enough credit. I talked briefly about this in a recent video, but I haven't really taken it and given it the proper gravitas that it truly merits. I mean, this team is very small on the Psyonix Esports side. And yes, we see the front facing with all the casters and all the people behind the scenes and the analysts, but we don't really see the supporting staff behind them that allow them to continue to do what they do. There is some things that I would like to talk about that I unfortunately can't, but things like making sure that the guys are taken care of and have a livable wage. For example, like there's many other esports that are cutting wages and reducing the amount that these guys are getting, even though the workload is the same. The only difference is in comparison online versus at home. So even though the companies are saving a ton of money on travel expenses and hotels and stuff like that, they're still paying their casters less. And to my knowledge, without getting into too much information, it does seem like the Psyonix team is doing a really good job of making sure that the commentators that you guys know and love every single week are well taken care of. So with that out of the way, as always, before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the video, if you guys enjoy the content, as always, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, notifications, all that fun stuff. Also, all my social medias, whether it be joining the Discord, hanging out with us on Twitch, whatever they may be, can be found in the description down below. So two parts of the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to be talking about some of the changes that have been made over the last year. And then in the second part, we're going to be talking about the people that really deserve the credit. So with that said, we're going to start with the first part. For those that don't know, at the beginning of this year, some drastic changes came to the RLCS scene. A while ago, last season and previous, we ended up having a league play-based system with the rival series and the RLRS. But this year, it has completely switched over to a circuit-based system where teams are playing in 3 splits, and in every split, there is 3 regional events, multiple weeks of something called the grid, and then a major, and an accumulation of all of those splits and all of those events then lead to the World Championship, which has expanded. The prize pool has gone from 1 million to 4.5 million. There has been a lot of drastic changes that have happened over the course of essentially 6 months. A lot to keep track of, and hopefully these videos help you guys out with that. Links to those can be found in the description if you would like more details about where to find that information about how the format really plays out. Now, when you're a consumer of the content, all you really notice is that there's just a lot more Rocket League that goes into it, but it really doesn't showcase the amount of work and effort that goes to make it all run and what has been an essentially seamless transition into a new system. Obviously, there's some things that I have left to question, whether how the world events would have worked, how the international competition would have played, whether it had been at a Dreamhack, or if it would have been a special one-off event like a Worlds like we've seen in the past. How that all would have played out, I think that's the hardest thing, is planning and preparing for a World Championship type event or a major event. The biggest one that comes to mind is the Boston Major for Counter-Strike. That is essentially, to me, what I would have for an expectation of what these majors would become. And even though we can't see those, it doesn't mean that those preparations weren't in place. These are things that they've been preparing for and working towards. And this is not something that just happened overnight. This is something that took a lot of time and effort and planning. And for it to work as well as it does, I don't think people realize. They went from doing a system that they set up and took care of behind the scenes, implemented it, and not only did they implement it, they brought in a brand new production team. For the longest time, RLCS used a company for production called NGE, or Next Generation Esports, based out in Burbank, California. Production team that I've worked with quite a few times. I was able to do most of their broadcasts for the RLCS when they were with them. They're transitioning over to now Dreamhack as their partner, which is why it leads me to believe that the major events would happen at Dreamhacks. All of this happened over the course of an off season. Obviously, it may have been in works for a very long time before that, but I don't think people truly appreciate the amount of effort that goes into a completely online broadcast that runs without any hiccups, minimal server issues on their end, multiple casters swapping in and out at any given moment. For those that have never worked in production or dealt with camera stuff or pulling in people or coordinating that many schedules, there is a lot of things going on at one time, and for them to work as well as they do and stay on track while also multiplying the amount of things, whether it be the grid or RLCS X, the amount of regionals or whatever else may be, to multiply that by what feels like infinite amounts. I don't think people realize how complicated that actually is and what actually goes into it. And even if I talk about all the minor details that go into it, I don't think people will still appreciate it. To put in perspective, when I was a commentator, I flew on Friday morning from my place here in Wisconsin out to Burbank, California. When I arrived there, I had to go to my hotel. After I landed at the hotel, was if I wasn't finished with like work prep and everything else, and I understand all the commentators have their own workload, but there was the work prep for making sure you're prepared for your matches, your talking points, whatever you wanted to cover. And then there was possibly like a rehearsal that you had to do. Usually on online events, you end up calling into the production team. You make sure your audio and your camera is working. You go over kind of a quick rehearsal of like what the pre-show is going to cover. I was part of the pre-show for all of the times that we had it. So prepping what content is going to be covered, all that kind of stuff goes into that. And that's not only work from the production team, but also the guys on the pre-show, going over talking points, the schedule, things to cover, video features, and all of the B-roll content, which is when these guys are talking and they have videos that play over the top, whether it be highlights or otherwise. That stuff has to be compiled and pulled from somewhere. Someone has to go and do that stuff. And the guys talking about it need to be made aware of it and rehearse that so when it does come to the live audience, there's no hiccups. It just runs smooth. And there's a lot of things that happen with that. So the rehearsals help with that. You then also have to do the broadcast days, which there is a ton of. The casters are working very, very hard, but it's not just the casters. It's also the production team. It's also the esports team behind the scene that is having to be aware of taking care of this at any given moment in case something goes wrong or in case they need to fix a hiccup, whether it be server issues or otherwise. So even though the traveling is no longer a thing, you still have all of these moving parts coming together to make sure that at the end of the day, when we watch the show, things go on without a hitch. I don't know how the major thing would affect stuff in my opinion of this, but I have not said this enough publicly. I don't think it can be said publicly enough, but I want to say massive congratulations to not only the Psyonix Esports team, which I will be talking about individually here in a bit, but also the production team over at Dreamhack, as well as the broadcast talent team and everybody else that makes the show work as a whole. To me, there's three major parts. There's the Psyonix Esports team, there's the production team with Dreamhack, and then there is the broadcast talent. Obviously, the pros and stuff can get credit because without them, there's no matches to cover, but I think those are a separate thing because they just play their matches, etc. I'm talking about the people behind the scenes that don't get any of the love or the credit because they're not on camera usually. Obviously, broadcast talent is a specific circumstance. I think the pros can also be in consideration, but primarily the two I'm going to be focusing on are the esports team and the production team. Again, massive congratulations. Things have worked seamlessly. Things look and run smooth. Still not sure on how the live events things would be playing out. There's a lot of concerns about with things being rushed and having to do them so quickly. How would have those turned out? Would there have been some things that they forget about, whether it be the dual broadcast with the Spanish thing or some things that they have kind of glanced over in the past that have caused frustration? Things that I can be a little bit more critical about publicly now. But overall, for being able to transition everything to an online broadcast with a new production team and all the moving parts of RLCS and a bunch of prize pools and all the different events and everything going, like there's a lot of things going on right now. Bravo. The team has done a phenomenal job. It is, to me, the one shining light of Rocket League as of late. Yes, free to play has been great, but the one thing that I think is keeping this game going is the esport, and they continue to do it well, and the numbers reflect that. The amount of people that tune into the broadcast, despite there being so many matches, there's a lot. So on to the specifics of the actual people within these. Primarily, I don't know a lot of the guys on the Dreamhack side, but on the Psyonix side, if you guys do not know the team, these are people you should know. These are people that you should respect for the amount of work that they're putting in. First one is going to be the name of Corey Lanier. If you guys don't know Corey Lanier, he is one of the 4 esports program specialists over at Psyonix. He was there the entire time I was there. A guy that has some experience from other games and other studios, but primarily is kind of at the top from my knowledge and has overtaken the top dog position in making a lot of the finalizing changes if he is able to from Psyonix's side for the esports team. The next one, a name that you guys should mostly know, is Murdy Shaw, or Scheist, who is also an esports program specialist. You guys don't know Scheist. He's an OG of the community. He's been around for a long time. He ended up getting hired pretty early on. He's also the founder of RLCS Esports. If you guys remember RLCS Esports, a community tournament organizer, he is part of that. And his partner in that, who also recently was picked up by Psyonix as an esports program specialist, is Jake Freeman, or Strangest Stranger. Strangest Stranger used to do observing for the RLCS and has recently been brought into Psyonix. He's a former TO for RLCS Esports, but was picked up within the last year to help with this team. It is crazy to me that the Psyonix team only has 5 people. So the next one up is going to be Skylar Winter Jr., another esports program specialist. Still love that man to death, and the things that he did at our improv class will be something I never forget. If you ask him about that story, maybe he'll tell you, but man plays a dang good cheerleader in improv. Funny times there. And last but not least, and sorry if I butcher this, Ian, is Ian Nowakowski. He is the esports community manager, very front-facing for a lot of the people, replies to a lot of stuff on social medias and everything. But Ian does a lot of help in making sure that on the community side, he does the best of his ability to be as forward-facing as possible for the esports team. And it is showing. Just the little things about tweets and stuff just make a huge difference of that interactivity that's been showing over the past 6 months. So those are the 5 major people that you should be giving a ton of praise to for the RLCS. If you guys do not know those names, go support them. Go show them any sort of love. The other team that doesn't get enough credit, again, is going to be the production team. This is Dreamhack. Obviously, Dreamhack has put on a ton of events and has a lot of experience when it comes to running production. But there's a lot of moving parts that people may not realize that goes on in production. Not only do you have people that are spectating the games, your observers, but you also have tournament admins, the people that are there primarily in Discord interacting with the pros in case pauses happen or something needs to change. It is not an easy position to be in as an admin because you're sometimes making a gut call, or you have to tell the players to just be patient. You've got all of the people watching the production being upset because their games, their precious games, have been delayed. What are we going to do? We have to listen to the casters talk more. I hate this. Start the game, blah, blah, blah. So admins have a lot of pressure on them, but there's a lot of moving parts on their end, whether they're communicating with the players about their frustrations and the issues, talking to Psyonix to see how they want to handle the appropriate issue. So admins are in there. Then there's the production crew, and the production crew can mean a whole bunch of things. The people running the graphical assets, producing the actual show, the guy who is at the top, who is basically telling you when to click buttons and what macro to click so this graphic comes up and all that kind of stuff. Sound techs and a bunch of other things, engineers. There's a lot of moving parts, and again, even though you may not know them individually, they do deserve a lot of credit to make the show run as smooth as it does. If those watching this video would like a little bit more information about this, my recommendation is I do stream every day but Tuesday over at twitch.tv/Lawler. You can find the link in the description as always. Feel free to come talk and ask about these kind of things. Things that if you want to know a bit more behind the scenes, and it is stuff that I am able to share, I'm more than willing to do so. And sometimes I may not have the answer to this, but I'm willing to go and ask the people and hopefully get your response. So hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on some of the things that go on and some people that I think definitely deserve credit for making this run as well as it does. I want to provide contrast and everything and play devil's advocate sometimes. And as critical as I am about this game and this esport, because I want it to be the best that it can be, at times I do think that it gets overshadowed and we don't give enough credit to the team that should get that credit, because again, they are doing it all from behind the scenes without any recognition, and don't really get to hear the praise unless someone goes out of their way to say it. So I'm going to take that step. I'm not going to make a post on Reddit about it, but I'm going to say it here. Massive thank you to the Psyonix Esports team. Massive thank you to the Dreamhack team. Massive thank you to all the commentators and all the people that I have not named that put in a ton of effort to make this all work. I do appreciate it. That is going to wrap it up for this video. A little bit different from what you guys are used to, and some more different ones coming up here shortly. Obviously, for those that don't know, on the 14th, Lethemir is going to be releasing Among Us in Rocket League, a huge project by a couple people that I'm excited to be a part of. The initial video I won't be a part of due to some things going on and some results not going in my favor. But with that said, there should be something like that. If you guys would like to see me play Among Us in Rocket League, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, as always, leave those down there as well. And while you're down there, if you enjoy the content, thumbs up, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we will catch you next time. Peace.